Hey everyone, I'm Christina Martinez Williams, and I live in Fort Washington, Maryland. I've been drinking ketones for the last 7.5 years and sharing them for 6. And I am really excited to talk with you all about how to share your story. This is one of the most important parts of our business because we get to start new conversations, and that's the most important part. But when we start them, we want to talk to them about ketones and share with them about what they've done in our lives. And the better that we get at telling that story, the more we can help people get started, the more people will want to get started. So I want to talk to you about four things. Why share your story, what you want to do in order to do it, what it's not, what sharing your story is not, how to do it, and then some action. So 5 things. But that's the framework of what we're going to do in the next few minutes. So first of all, why share your story? I bet you can think of this yourself, but it's so important because sharing your story shares with people what's possible. It builds their belief in our product, in ketones, in this community, in this form of business, and it also allows them to relate to you and to see that what you have, what is happened in your life, can also happen for them. It validates the conversation, the ketone conversation, because you're a living, breathing uh, example of what's possible when we have ketones in our system. It also is the first letter of our system, of ACE. It's the attract, the approach. It allows you to help people come closer and say, what is that? Why are you like that? What is happening in your body? What have you experienced? And it gives you this opportunity to share. So, what do you want your story to be able to do? You want it to cause that intrigue, to cause that interest. You want people to be able to hear themselves in your before ketones part of your story. You want them to be able to say, oh, yeah, me too. I experienced that as well. Or I know someone who I love who does, and I can relate to that because I know someone who's in that same experience. It allows them to connect and to relate, and it paints a picture for them of what it looks like to have these benefits, what it means to have more energy, what it means to have mental clarity, things that might be a little bit out there in terms of, or buzzwords that we hear all the time, but it gives them an idea of what we're actually talking about or what ketones actually do, the power of of ketones in people's bodies. Okay, and what is it not? So it's not a couple of things. It's not your whole entire ketone story in said out loud. It's not sharing all the details of every single thing that ketones have done in your life, because we know that that is great and vast, and a lot of us have experienced all of the benefits at some time in our use of ketones. So it's not sharing all the details at once. It's also not more than a couple minutes, more than 2 or 3 minutes. It might also not be more than 30 seconds. You might have a few different versions that are really short, like your elevator speech, your elevator story, or a little bit longer for like a guest call that might be 2 or 3 minutes long, or for someone that you're in one-on-one conversation with and you're able to take that little bit of extra time. You may at some point have the opportunity to share some of those extra details, but not when you're crafting this main story of your experience with ketones or your experience with the business. This goes for both. And then it is not making medical claims. So any of those isms, diabetes, any of the things, even things like anxiety and depression, any words that are medical in nature, we want to stay away from using, because when we use them, it pigeonholes our story to maybe only to have someone say, well, that's not me, so it must not be for me. Oh, I don't have diabetes, so I can't benefit from this. Oh, my blood pressure is normal, so it must not be for me. Or I don't need fat loss and I don't want fat loss, so this isn't for me either. Fat loss isn't one of those medical claims, but we want to allow as many people as possible to be engaged and enter our stories and to see themselves. And if we keep out those medical claims, it helps. What we do know is that anyone with a medical condition will probably have some challenges around their sleep, around their energy, around their cravings. And these we know will help. So regardless of someone's medical condition, we can know that we can share what we're experiencing and we can focus on the feeling words instead of the medical words. I felt really nervous a lot all the time. That was something that guided my decisions in my life. Or I felt really sad all the time. I was really down. I didn't get out of bed very often or rarely, and it made me feel this way. We can focus in that way, and then people connect to the feelings, regardless if they have the same exact medical condition or experience that we have. Okay, so how do we write the story? It is so exciting to do this, and it does take some time. So I want you to, as soon as you're done listening to this, I want you to decide when you're going to sit down and write this out if you haven't yet. Or look back at what you've already written and see if you can tweak it in any way that makes sense to you, or that feels good to where you're at in your story now. I know I've written mine several times over the last 7.5 years because my experience, my understanding, my clarity around what I've experienced shifts a little bit as I grow and as I evolve as well. So take the time, carve out some time to do this activity of writing this so that you can uh, best best help people say yes, because we know that what we have our hands on is powerful and inspiring, and that we get to inspire people to be their best versions, and when they feel better they get to step into better, and just as we do every single day that we drink ketones. Okay, so what are you going to think about? Here's the framework. The framework is: before drinking ketones, I felt, I did, I experienced, and you're going to think about the benefits. So for each parts of this framework, you're going to think about the benefits that ketones bring. But how did you lack those benefits before ketones? Energy, focus, mood, sleep, easier fat loss, reduced cravings for carbs, muscle preservation and growth, and digestion and skin. All of those are the benefits that we get to talk about, that we get to refer to. And you want to refer to them in ways that paint pictures. So before drinking ketones, my energy at the end of the day with an 8-month-old and a 2-year-old was such that I would try to read a book or watch a show because that's all I felt I had the energy to do, but I'd end up just falling asleep. So that gives someone a picture, especially someone who's a mom, to be able to connect to what it means to have a lack of energy. And most people, even if they're not a mom, they come home at the end of the day and they don't have any more energy to do the things. So what does a lack of energy, how did that show up in your life before? What did that mean? What did it mean to have cravings? Were you going to Starbucks and getting a venti frappuccino every single day, and that's where your cravings showed up? Or maybe every time that you were passing the break room at work, you would grab the carbs and sugars that were present and couldn't say no to them. What was it that showed up when you were before ketones? And this is where you want people to hear themselves. You want them to say, oh my goodness, that's exactly what I do. Or I know exactly, I might not have been reaching for that venti coffee, but I was reaching for those bags of chips every single day in the afternoon. They can hear something in your story that connects to a piece of their own. That's the goal of this before. When you're painting your before picture, you want to paint it with all of the few benefits that you're going to talk about that are the most prevalent for you. You're going to paint that all at once. You want them to be able to enter into your world before ketones completely. You don't want to go to your after drinking ketones or since drinking ketones yet. You want them to really be involved and invested in your emotions, and bring your emotions to this space. Allow yourself to feel and express how you felt and what life was like. How did it feel to have no more energy? For me, that felt like I was only mom Christina, and I wasn't Christina. I wasn't the Christina that was always going after her goals because I had no more energy to do that at the end of the day. So talk about how you feel. Okay, so before drinking ketones. Since drinking ketones, so we don't really use after because there's no end point. I'm drinking ketones for the rest of my life. So since drinking ketones, I have found that I was able to not only stay up after my girls went to sleep, but I was accomplishing goals that I hadn't for 2 years prior. That allows me to express. Now I'm connecting back to the same one that I just talked about in my before, the same benefit, the energy, and I'm going to connect it the same time frame in my next. So if you're talking about energy, fat loss, and sleep in your before drinking ketones, your lack of those. Then in your since drinking ketones, you're going to talk about your energy and your fat loss and your sleep in that same order. So people are making the connection from here to here. And it can be easy to go back and forth. Before, this was what my energy was like. Since drinking ketones, my energy was like this. Before my fat loss was here, or my lack of fat loss, I had gained tons of weight with 2 pregnancies. People asked me if I was pregnant when I was 8 months postpartum. And then saying this, but what that does is people get a little confused. They're going like this. They're like, okay, before, oh, okay, up, since, oh, they're going like this. They're going back and forth. It's this roller coaster. If you keep them in all of your before, and then you bring them into your since drinking ketones, you allow them to transition that, and not only transition with you, but transition themselves, because they connected to something within your before story, and now they're hearing where they connect or what can happen in their own after they start their since drinking ketone story. So keeping them in concise sections like that helps people to make that transition and helps to make them see the hope. It helps them to feel the hope, because now they see, oh, I connect to that. Even if it was just one little piece in your story, they connected to it. And then now they can see, oh, it can be like that. Really? I don't have to have this space where I just fall asleep at the end of the night and don't get done what I want to. I can actually get my not just do stuff, but I can accomplish things that I really want to accomplish. Really, that's possible. And then they hear it differently. They hear it in that ability. And then the last part, so we have our before drinking ketones, since drinking ketones, and then our very last part is, what are you most excited about? What are you most excited about moving forward? If you're talking about your product story, so your story of before drinking ketones, since drinking ketones, you can talk about what you're most excited about moving forward if there's things that you're really looking forward to. So for me, I'm really looking forward to continuing to grow and preserve my muscles. You can also use this in your product story as a way to bring in the opportunity to share ketones, because you're so excited about what you've experienced that you get to share it now, that you get to help other people experience the same types of benefits that you have. You get to use that last little bit to plant that seed, put that plug in for someone to see that this can be something even more than just helping themselves. They can inspire other people to do the same thing. So you can use it for both. What are you most excited about in those areas? So if you talked about energy, fat loss, and sleep, then now you're talking about what you since drinking ketones, energy, fat loss, and sleep, and then what you're most excited about, energy, fat loss, and sleep, and maybe that little extra of what you're most excited about in your for the opportunity. Or choose one of those 3 and add that as what you're most excited about. So what I'm most excited about is that now, in that extra time that I get at the end of the night, I get to contribute to the world and help more people feel amazing and help more people step into their greatness. That's what I'm most excited about. So this is the framework of your story. One piece that you want to make sure you add at the beginning is your ID frame, is what we call it. It's you saying who you are, and part of you saying who you are allows people to connect to some part of you. So you probably hear this a lot from the leaders who share. I'm Christina Martinez Williams. I am 43, married, and have 2 little girls who are 8 and 9.5, but who were 8 months old and 2 when I got started drinking ketones. And I used to be a coach of teachers. You sharing and I live in Fort Washington, Maryland, and sharing where you live, if you're married or not, if you have kids or not, if you have grandkids, how many you have, and what your current working background is, or your past, if you're now working, sharing this full-time or part-time, allows people to see and connect to another piece of that. Even if don't have any kids, if they hear that I'm 43 and they're 45, they're like, oh, cool, she's like me. Or if they hear that I used to coach teachers and they used to be a counselor in a school, they're like, oh, she was in education too. It allows them to find something else that they're then going to bring into that first connection with your before story. And it gives them this extra little connection to who you are. Okay. One thing that I want to add about what you're bringing into the story is yourself. Your story is powerful. Sometimes we hear all of these stories, which are amazingly powerful. Everyone's story with ketones is powerful. But sometimes, and I know I've done this, we hear other people's stories of, I've lost over 100 pounds and I've maintained that. I haven't lost 100 pounds. I've lost 30 pounds, but I'm also 5'0" and I have lost 10 pant sizes. But 30 pounds on my frame is a lot. For a while, if I think that I could compare myself and say, oh, but my story isn't like hers because I wasn't like that. And I don't have that to share. Although I know that I've experienced ketones and I've benefited completely from them. So it's finding and really believing that your story is powerful and allowing people to see you. You get the opportunity to collect people's stories all the time, and you get to connect them to people's stories through our guest calls, through our Inspire On stories, through the Better stories, through connecting people in three-way chat so that people can hear other stories. But your story is so important and so powerful, and you have to share it. The more you share it, the more people you're going to help. You have to be almost, it will feel like a broken record, but you have to get to that point where it feels like it's in your body, just like an innate statement is in your body. Okay. Now, the last thing is getting into action with this. I have a couple of action steps for you to take, and I want you to take them seriously because this is what is going to even help you step further into your own belief in yourself, in belief in the product, as well as belief in what we get to do in the process of sharing with other people about this amazing technology that we have our hands on and this amazing community that we're a part of. So here's your action. You need to, after we get off of, you finish watching this, you need to figure out a time frame in this week or in the next couple days when you are going to sit down and spend at least 10 minutes writing out your story. I recommend writing it in bullet point form. Your before, bullet point, energy, and then figure out what you want to say about energy. Make it into a short sentence or into a phrase. And then whichever next benefit, choose another benefit, choose another benefit. You could write it for all benefits. You may not always share all those benefits, but you might make one post about energy and you take this bullet point line, before drinking ketones, my energy was here. Since drinking ketones, my energy is here. It shows up in this way. It manifests itself in this way. And I'm most excited about my energy like this. So now you've created a post just from taking from your written out story, but in these bullets that you can pull from, add to, and then now you've got this nice, concise, succinct story that you can put a picture of you, of me at the night with my girls asleep and me getting more done. That allows you to pick and choose. If you've named all of these things, and once you've approached someone and you're talking to them about ketones and you say, which of these benefits would make your typical day better? And they say, oh my gosh, I need more energy. Then you say, oh, I did too. And then you tell them your energy story. Or they say, I need more sleep. And you say, oh my goodness, I did too. I slept like this. Now my sleep is like this. And I'm so excited for this. Or if you don't have sleep as a benefit that you've experienced at the best, you share someone else's story. But if you have all of those written out, you can easily, in your mind, connect to the person that you're talking to in the way that's going to connect to them the best. Okay, so you have to write these down. Take time and write them down. And then I want you to share that with people. So that means share it with some friends or family members. Share it with the leader that you're working with. Share it with a couple of people that you meet out and about. And I want you to say it out loud. I want you to practice saying it out loud many times. So that might mean that you do this every day for like 3 minutes a day or a minute a day, that you set an alarm on your phone and you share your story out loud with the air until it starts to flow, because you're going to find what words sound good. I did this on my commute. When I used to commute as a coach of teachers, I had a long commute, sometimes hour-ish. And in that commute, I would practice saying out loud. I would record myself so I could hear it back, and I would keep practicing it. And the more that I said it, the more I realized, oh, yeah, that's true. But I like how this feels and sounds, because this is how I really felt. I dug in a little bit deeper. Do that work so that when you're with people, you get to do it more, and do it with people right away, right now. When I would go and do gym tastings, it was a perfect place for me to practice sharing my story, so that when I heard and saw their eyes, their smile, their experience with my story, I could be like, oh, well, that didn't really connect to them. I wonder what would happen if I said it this way. My same story, but maybe sharing a different detail of how it showed up. And that's how over time I was able to craft a certain way of sharing it that feels good to me, because it's my story. It brings out my emotion and my passion. And then it also allows someone to connect with me in a powerful way. Okay, so you're going to write your story. You're going to take some time to do that. You're going to practice your story. You're going to share it with your person that you're working with, your leader. You're also going to share it with friends and family. And then you're going to keep practicing it out loud until you feel like you have it in your body, just like your innate statement. And then even then, you're going to keep visiting it. But with that, you're going to be able to really impact and increase the impact that you have, build the belief that other people have in what we have, allow them to see that they can relate to you, but they can also see hope for what's possible for them, and that they don't have to stay where they used to be because you didn't stay where you used to be and you're now here. So you're giving them the hope and the possibility. You're inspiring them to be that best version of themselves. Okay, that's what it is. I'm so excited to hear your stories, and I love to do this. I love to help listen and coach around stories as well. So I'm excited to hear what has happened to you, and have you share that more. Have a wonderful afternoon and get to share it.